Let's get to the root of stem-changing verbs right after this. Hola, soy Ricardo. ¿Quieres aprender español? Quiero enseñarte. Yo entiendo varios idiomas. Hablo español, inglés, francés, italiano, un poco de coreano. Entiendo mucho portugués y un poco de alemán y latín. Mi amigo entiende 12 idiomas. ¿Cuántos idiomas entiendes tú? Hablo muchos idiomas, pero prefiero enseñar español. En mi tiempo libre me gusta escuchar música. Prefiero música con guitarra. ¿Qué música prefieres tú? Mis amigos piensan que soy famoso. Estoy en YouTube, pero no soy famoso. Quiero hacer muchas lecciones para ustedes. Pienso comenzar una nueva serie de videos pronto. Me gusta reír. Río mucho cuando escucho los chistes de Pepito. Repito, río mucho con Pepito. ¿Ríes mucho también? Tengo sed. Debo ir a Kung Fu Tea. Siempre pido el té tailandés. Sirven muchos tipos de té en Kung Fu Tea. ¿Qué pides cuando tienes sed? Empiezo a trabajar en una hora. Nos vemos. Most of the verbs that I used in the dialogue are ER, IR stem changing verbs. That means that when you drop the ER or the IR, what you're left with is going to change in spelling. For example, entender. You drop the ER and you try to add the endings that you do for ER verbs. However, yo is not going to be entiendo. It's going to be yo entiendo. The stem changes. E-T-E-N-D changes to E-T-I-E-N-D. We see this change in a pattern that many teachers liken to a boot. And so we call these boot verbs. Entender. Yo entiendo. Tú entiendes. Ella entiende. Nosotras entendemos. Vosotros entendéis. Ellos entienden. Many verbs change from E to IE as entender did. But did you notice what went on outside the boot? For nosotros and vosotros, there is no change to the stem. Funnily, in English, we call this the stem, but in Spanish, we call this the root, la raíz. Those are two different parts of the plant, but if you ever hear someone say root in Spanish, they might be talking about the stem. Whatever you call it, it's what you have left over after you drop the ER or the IR. There are also verbs that change from E to I. For example, pedir. The stem or root raíz is going to change from PED to PID for the people within the boot. Yo pido, tú pides, él pide, nosotros pedimos, ellos piden. So, outside the boot, we have pedimos, pedís. What happens if you are talking to a native speaker and you forget to change the E to I. Well, you might embarrass yourself, because if you go around saying yo pedo, that means I fart. One more thing about pedir. Notice that it can mean to ask for. Pido permiso para salir. I ask for permission to go out. If I'm a teenager, you gotta ask permission to go out late at night with your friends. Pido permiso. At a restaurant, you can say, pido una hamburguesa. I've heard people explain that in Spanish, you have a for built in, so you don't need to ask for something. The for is already built in. No, Spanish is Spanish. Because we don't use something like for, doesn't mean that it's already built into the language. That just means that in English, we need to use a for in those kinds of situations. For is very often translated as por, and you don't have to say pedir por to say that you're asking for something. You just don't use anything. And it's actually wrong if you do put por or para after pedir. Pido un refresco. Pido una cerveza. Pido una pizza. You don't need anything that looks like for. Spanish is Spanish. Not everything's going to be translated exactly the way you want every time, and just accept it. At the beginning of the dialogue, I asked you, ¿Quieres aprender español? I put two verbs together. ¿Quieres aprender? Many times when you have two verbs together in Spanish, you will conjugate the first verb and not the second. Now, Spanish uses a lot fewer commas than English does, so sometimes you will have two conjugated verbs right next to each other, but it'll be one clause and another clause right after it. So that means that each of those verbs has a different subject. So, ¿Quieres aprender? Do you want to learn? And we don't conjugate verbs like that in English either when they're together like that. Do you want to learn? So conjugating involves changing the verb to match the person that speaks or is being spoken about, or the time in which that person is speaking. ¿Quieres aprender? Do you want to learn? And in English, it's easier to hear that if you think about the third person. Ella quiere visitar el museo. She wants to visit the museum. If somebody says she visits the museum, you can hear that that's wrong. She wants visits. You don't do that in English. Ella quiere visitar. You don't do something like the error that I just mentioned in Spanish either. Leave the second verb unconjugated with an AR ending, ER ending, or IR ending. A very useful verb to learn now that is very often combined with other verbs is pensar. I told you in the dialogue, pienso comenzar una nueva serie de videos. I plan on starting a new series of videos. This is something that I plan to do in the future. If I am in middle school and I have my sights set on Harvard, I would say, pienso estudiar en Harvard. Pienso estudiar. I'm thinking about studying. That's kind of a wish, or maybe a future goal, something you intend on doing. At the end of the dialogue, I said, empiezo a trabajar en una hora. I start working in 1 hour. But did you see that there was another letter in between this time, between the main verb and the secondary verb? There are many Spanish verbs that use a preposition when you use a second verb with that primary verb. Empiezo a trabajar. Comienzo a estudiar. Now, comienzo and empiezo, comenzar, empezar, are very similar verbs. And right now, we don't have time to look at many verbs like these. But know that from the verbs that I've mentioned today, these two will need a right after them if you have a second verb attached to them. Pensar didn't use that, and querer didn't use that. So it's a certain category of verbs. Finally, notice that reír and sonreír both have accents. Río, sonríes, ríe, reímos, sonreís, ríen. You'll have an accent to separate the sound of I, E, or EI throughout this verb or these two verbs in the present tense. Bueno amigos, muchas gracias and thank you for joining me in another episode of The Spanish Doctor. Leave a comment down below using your stem changing verbs en español. Suscríbete, échame un me gusta y nos vemos. Adiós.